Welcome to segment 6. And tonight we're going to do, actually, we have a guest in our studio tonight.
Hello.
The disembodied voice of George, our engineer. You can actually see him in
He's
full
actually
I
living
have
color.
suddenly become embodied.
That's right. You
Yes.
can actually see what George looks like. And now you'll know why we never let him in here.
Unfortunately, this is the only body they had, so
That's,
I stuck with it.
it looks like it's been rode hard and put away wet.
Yes.
We're going to be talking tonight about something I find very disturbing, and that is the federal government has said that raising children is actually a function of government, but in their benevolence, they are going to co-parent with the parents.
They're going to let you be an equal partner.
You can be an equal
in raising
partner.
your children.
Yeah. And they are talking quite literally. It's the U.S. Department of Education and Department of Health and Human Services. It's a draft document, but you know how that goes. They're going to treat families as equal partners in raising children. It describes how government employees will intervene to provide monitoring goals for the children at home and the classroom, and that if parents are failing to meet the standards set, evidence-based parenting interventions will be made to ensure the children's social, emotional, and behavioral needs are met.
So what are the criteria for this sort of thing?
Yes.
They haven't said yet.
I
Well,
mean,
at least this article does not say.
yeah.
The criteria is if you have a radio show called On Target Radio, you don't meet the criteria.
That's not going to be good.
That's not a worry for you. But if you produce a show called On Target Radio,
That could be a
it could be a problem for
it
you.
could be a problem for me.
It could be.
And that's the reason George is here, actually, is because he's the only one in the building who has children. Well, he has a child. None of the
Yes.
rest of us have
And you should all be
procreated.
scared.
Not that I know of.
How do you know who else is in the building?
There's nobody else in the building.
There's no
Let's
one
be
else in the
honest.
You work for the NSA?
Yes, I do.
You know who's directly above us actually is Hair Club for Men.
Are you serious?
It's
Really?
dead serious. If you come here during the day, it's hilarious to just sit in the front lobby and watch the In and Out. That's no joke.
I might just have to do that one day.
Can I bleep him?
Saturdays too.
He said,
So-
he
there's
said
no
in
dump
and out.
button.
Oh, it doesn't work?
Nope, not anymore.
Damn.
I don't have one on this board.
Oh,
dump button.
we've got it over here.
I got one right
That
here.
doesn't work.
Yeah,
inside, so
that's
you-
what that's going to do is actually dump whatever's on the air right now. So don't hit that.
Yeah, I think
And go
You're going to lose 8 seconds of
didn't
whatever's
that
in the air.
happen one time with Gretchen? She walked in and was showing it. And
It's
pushed it.
happened multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I
Not
dumped
multiple
something.
times with her, but
I don't mean to
Right.
interrupt.
yes.
That we're
Sorry, go
doing.
ahead.
This is
Sorry.
why I don't let him
Segment
in here.
Hey,
Okay?
by the way, we do have a comment on Facebook too.
The
in regards to this. Want me to go ahead and tell you what that is?
I'm just trying to get the line out. Okay, go ahead and tell me.
That's good.
I've lost control of the show about 10 minutes
All right,
ago.
it happens when you do YouTube stuff. So the comment was basically about the mentioning that the fact that the liberals or Democrats tend to use like I'm sorry. Oh, George is telling me to talk into the mic closer. Very good. The specific wording that they use, like when they talk in terms about the children, they talk about like we and they. Like instead of your children, it's always our children, like collectively.
Of course.
Exactly. They're saying here, and this is the scary part. The document argues that Big Brother needs to know about essentially everything for the supposed benefit of the child it wants to partner in caring for. Citing research, the policy statement claims that the institutions where children learn cannot ignore family wellness if they want to. And then it goes on and it talks about, in other words, every aspect of family life is now fair game under the pretext of checking family wellness. And they want to actually, they extend the meaning of the word family to mean all the people who play a role in the child's life.
Yep.
Teachers, government, everybody is family,
Yeah.
and they have a right to check on
Well,
any
because
of
it
them.
takes a village.
That's
Right,
exactly-
according to Hillary.
That's right.
Where I think a lot of this originated, but it really originated with like Lenin and, Karl Marx is really where it originated. Back in 2013, Melissa Harris Perry, who is an odious talk show host on MSNBC, said, "We have to break through our private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families." So the liberals have been promulgating this for a while. But it really is. I mean, if you really think about socialism, that's really what it is. And I was telling Dave at dinner, a lot of the TV shows and movies that I like to watch are, spy related or comic book hero related. But one of the recurring themes is children trained to be assassins
Yeah.
in Russian boarding schools.
Yeah.
And that is a recurring theme in a lot of these types of
And going
things.
back into the actual comics into the 70s and 80s. Yeah.
Right. And you
That's
know,
where it
you
all comes
have to
from.
think this is came from somewhere. It's based off
Yeah, it's not an
something.
aberration. No.
Sure. They also, this bill calls, they should screen all students over 12 years old regularly for depression and issue prescriptions or treatment as necessary.
You ever seen a 12-year-old that wasn't moody?
No.
You know what?
No, I
I
haven't.
taught for half a year, 5th grade. That's 10-year-old.
I'm sorry.
That was in 75.
Why?
I am still in therapy over that.
Yeah.
Okay. 10-year-old kids are like off the wall.
Yeah.
That's just what 10-year-old kids do. They don't
Yeah.
need drugs. That's what 10-year-old kids are. They bounce off the wall.
Well,
And
but
eventually they get over it.
everybody needs drugs now, as long as they're the assigned and approved drugs.
Right.
If they're not, then
exactly.
they put you in jail, then
It's
put
like-
you on the assigned
It's like
approved drugs.
Gattaca.
Gattaca.
Well, and there's a little conflict between these two articles because the one says this was published in January and it says last month Every Student Succeeds Act was passed by the GOP Congress. So it sounds like both houses of Congress already passed it, but then this other one says it's just a draft document. So I'm not sure.
Isn't the draft document though an earlier version? Earlier story?
Well, I don't know because the one that refers to the draft document was published later than the one that
Is it
refers
possible
to
that this is
ESSA.
a draft document, a policy draft? So this is within the bureaucracy and not within the legislation?
Yeah.
Because that you can pass
Probably.
legislation and then
Yeah,
it goes
it
on to
could be-
bureaucracy and then
right.
they actually
it could
determine
be clarification of the legislation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be.
They're also, I love this definition, full service community school. Right off the bat,
That sounds
That's-
dirty.
that's
Yeah,
I was
that's
going to
what
say
I
that
do.
sounds highly euphemistic to
Yes,
me.
you're at the end of your class day ends with a happy ending.
Your teacher is from a Van
Uh,
Halen video.
Full service community schools defined as, note this, government run elementary or secondary school that participates in a community based effort to coordinate and integrate education, developmental, family health, and other comprehensive services through community based organizations and public and private partnerships.
So we're going to bring political action organizations into the public schools,
Like
essentially.
4th grade.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wonderful. What could go wrong?
You gotta indoctrinate them early.
Yeah, the New American that wrote this article, that's the website. They call them parental replacement centers.
There you go. That's it.
Which is
Um,
probably more accurate.
this is funny, but it's not.
It's not funny.
This is serious.
I'm laughing because I'm very upset. Actually, I'm laughing because I'm frustrated and I'm a little bit gobsmacked.
She loves that word.
I do love
She
that word.
does. Yeah.
There's a quote here from Martin Blank, former assassin and current director of the Coalition for Community
I
Schools.
think that's a gross point blank joke.
It is. The inclusion of the full service community schools program in the Every Student Succeeds Act reflects a broader vision for our public schools in ESSA, a vision that recognizes that educators must work in partnership with their communities to help all young people thrive.
So public schools can't effectively teach math, science, or English, but they're going to broaden their vision to teach everything else.
They're going to handle, morality, mental health, all of those things.
See, and I see two sides to this. And one of the things when you first open up your first segment was that government they want government to be, a system of raising your children. They want government to be responsible. But unfortunately, in subsegments and in many segments, actually, government has already become that.
Absolutely.
Because parents have simply abdicated because it's convenient.
True.
I work a lot of hours. I don't mind school raising my kid and TV raising my kid and everything. And so, there's already that foot, and it ends up big foot.
That's true.
Oh,
It
right.
is true.
And as you've said before, I think it started with the Great Society. It basically, they're saying we want to intervene in these areas where children are not being, not being
Properly.
supported,
Not properly being.
don't get the support at
Right.
home that they need. But they created that situation
Of course.
Yeah.
with the welfare program and,
Yeah.
the whole concept of I don't need to be married to this man that I had this baby with because the government's going to give me welfare. And actually, I figured out if I get more money if I have more babies with more men.
And they
It-
somehow
yeah.
package that as empowerment.
It's
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very clear that the object here is to take all responsibility away from the family
Mhm.
and put it on the government. So what they do is they create the problem and they go, you have a problem, but we have a solution
We have
for
a
that.
solution for that.
Right. And they're famous, and this administration in particular is famous for creating a problem so that they can then turn around and tell
So they
you
can
what
claim
the
to fix
solution
it,
is,
Yeah,
which of
right.
course then narrows your rights.
Well, the
Creates the need
solution
for
is a
them.
means to an end. It homogenizes that student population,
Mhm.
and
Even more.
yeah, and a very, you know, homogenous population is easier to control than people with varying
Also,
viewpoints.
It's mind control.
it's also creating more need for government by creating a
That's the
problem.
whole point.
Well, yeah,
and
it's
supplying a fix for it.
self-perpetuating, yeah.
just
That whole
growing it.
point. More power to the government. I mean, you're right. What they do is they're dumbing down people so that people don't question what's going on.
Right.
And Lyndon Johnson said it, and we can't repeat his exact words, but Lyndon Johnson said it. If you give them free stuff,
Well, you could technically, because you're
We're
on
the
YouTube. You're not
internet,
on my airwaves
but
anymore.
I
Yeah.
don't think you should.
No,
that's probably true anyway.
you get lots of hits.
You're right. Yeah, when I step out the door.
Well,
But
Yeah.
but basically, he said if you give those
ISIS.
people, as it were, free stuff, they'll vote for us for 50 years.
No, didn't you
200.
say 100
100
years?
200.
Yeah.
and
something
and
like
and
that.
that's exactly what's happening. And here's the
Right.
problem: once you're giving people free stuff,
You can't take it away.
how do you take it away?
You can't.
do it.
You
It's
can't.
not going to work.
Right. Which is the uphill battle that Republicans have been facing, especially in presidential elections, for at least a decade.
Sure.
You know, because the welfare, the welfare state has gotten wise to the fact that the Republicans are not too keen on it, and they'd like to scale it back, if not completely remand it.
Well, some
Lib-
Republicans.
Liberalism is remarkable in the way they manipulate reality. For instance, if you have your pet project, whatever it is, feeding iguanas, I don't care what it is, but you have your pet project, and you've slated an annual increase of 15% every year. And the Republicans come back and they go, no, man, we got to cut the budget. We're only going to give them 7.5%. They call that taking money away from their
Right.
program.
Right.
They act as if that was already their money,
They owned it.
and the Republicans have reduced it. They're still getting a raise. They're
Yeah.
still getting an increase.
Well, it's the same thing with the CPS when they're talking about cuts,
Exactly.
cuts to schools. Well, they factor it on the next year's budget. The next
Which-
year's budget is always 10 to 12% higher.
Precisely.
So,
But by removing any of it,
yeah.
they say you're taking money away from us.
And the other side of that is if you have a responsible administration within a single school who says, well, we're going to do this and do this and do this and streamline it. If you use less than your allocated budget for that year, you don't get any extra money
That's
the
it.
next year.
That's right. You're out.
Yep.
Which leads us, when I was at, I spent, I forget, 1.5 years, 2 years, something like that, at Daly College, overseeing the aviation program that they have with American Airlines.
Yeah.
That's the mentality.
Hmm.
You got $24,000 left in your budget. It's almost the end of the year. You got to spend it.
Yeah.
I don't need anything. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You got to spend it. If you don't spend it, it won't come in next year.
You know what? That reminds me of a story too. It's kind of off topic slightly, but they do the same thing with the military, the ammo. When they have to
Right.
use it, like they'll just blow off extra rounds because if they don't use it up, they won't have the allocation.
You won't get it next year.
Yeah.
Right. You didn't use it last year, so you don't need it this year.
Yeah.
That's a really serious flaw in the way the government works.
Well, it's another built-in self-perpetuation. I mean, it is all geared toward feeding itself.
We're not rewarding people for being smart.
It's like the world's largest amoeba.
I've
Right.
never quite put it in that way in my mind.
Although when it did split once, then we had an issue. But
We had two north and south,
it was you got a little
Confederate
violent.
amoeba and a Yankee amoeba.
But it turned back into one again. So,
I don't know.
probably from like
We like to joke about this stuff, but I'm telling you something.
I know.
This is serious stuff.
This is very serious. And if you thought Common Core was bad, I guess there's good and bad with this, because Common Core never was a law.
No,
Common Core was just foisted upon the states. If
they
you
held money over.
if
your
you
head.
want funding,
Right.
you've got to use this curriculum. This is the new thing you're going to do. So I guess the good part of this actually is a law, so we can lobby our representatives and our senators to overturn this,
not make it a law.
to go back and say no, this was a mistake. But with Common Core, there was nothing we could do. So in some respect, it's a good thing that it's actually something they voted on, and they can unvote on it.
The problem is, if the next president is a Democrat, the only ones
Oh,
that are
we're
on the
screwed.
horizon it's all going downhill fast.
Oh yeah, no, this election is absolutely for all the marbles. I mean, we've almost gone too far to pull it back, but this is really our last chance. This is absolutely the last chance.
We always get back to this subject as we close.
Well, I can
gotta
bring
go
it back
vote.
to education slightly. My daughter's 4.
I was just going to close, but that's fine.
Don't, because my daughter's 4, just turned 4. She's going to be going in. We're doing a summer preschool, and then she's going to be in preschool or kindergarten in the fall. We just did a walkthrough of the preschool this past week. My wife and I did. There's a packet about 3/4 of an inch thick that you have to go through in order to sign your kid up for this preschool, and most of it is sort of common sense things that they could have just put in on a single sheet of paper. Very elaborate. This is our safety procedures, and this is in case of this, and if there's an emergency, we call. Going through all the stuff, right? It's all stuff you could just sort of figure if you've got an IQ above 70, right? Then there's a page that talks about. Now, you've had dogs. Have you ever adopted a dog from like a shelter?
I have, but not from a shelter.
Okay. So they ever do a home check?
Oh no, I've never had to do that.
There's a section in the paperwork from this preschool that talks about qualifying a home check. If your child seems to be non-hygienic or poor nutrition, not malnutrition, but poor nutrition. So that could be construed if you have a fat kid.
Predicated on what? Right.
If your child uses profanity, if these are all qualifications for a DCFS home check.
Oh, they're going to call DCFS on you. They're not going to come
DCFS.
themselves.
They're not going to come and say, they're not going to talk to you and say, well, I mean, maybe they would. Who knows?
Yeah, hopefully they would give you at least a warning.
But yeah, it's just very interesting. I found it, and I was reading
really
through
bad.
this with my wife, and I said, this is the type of scrutiny you get when you're adopting a pit bull, because I've had many pit bulls, and they want to meet your other dogs. They want to know that you're not stuck in kennels outside and stuff like that.
They want to know that you're not
just
running a dog
pit
fighting
bulls,
ring.
right.
I was thinking to myself, what happens when my kid has her own opinion?
Right.
That's a mistake.
That's a red flag right there. They're going to have to do the DCFS home check.
And I know some people who got DCF got involved in their lives, and it is hard as hell to get them out of your life.
I've got a friend, I won't say their names because they're currently involved in it. I have a friend who is dealing with DCFS because one of their child's, they have an 11-year-old son, one of their child's friends said that he said something, which he didn't, because it's completely outside the kid's character, and it wouldn't be true, even if he had said it. It was something about his house, and it wasn't true. And they are currently going through, even after having visited their house and talked to them and talked to their neighbors, and they're still going through. They have a hearing in about a month.
Oh yeah, it will be minimum 1 year.
Yeah,
the DCFS will be in their lives.
Nuts.
Yeah, because I know somebody who had foster kids, and there was an incident with the foster kids.
Yeah.
And so now DCFS is involved with their actual kids, with their natural born kids.
Right.
And they're so tactful, and they're so easy to work with.
Oh, and their employees, they hire the highest caliber, top-notch employees.
One eye in the middle of the forehead. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're all people who graduated with sociology degrees, so we all know how smart that is. And then
that's the most useful degree ever.
They're probably like bottom 25% of
communications.
Women's studies.
Women's gender studies.
Yeah.
Gender studies is the bomb.
there was a woman on
but not the bombshell.
I forget what one of those people who go around interviewing people on the street who was complaining about she was complaining.
It was the one where they were interviewing. Oh, there was another one where they were interviewing Bernie Sanders supporters on a college campus.
No.
And she said her major was gender studies.
Well, very similar. They were interviewing people about the economy, and this woman said, "I graduated from college 6 or 8 months ago. I can't find a job." And the guy says, "What was your major?" She goes, "Women's studies." And he goes, "What job were you going to find?
Right.
What are you going to do? You're not qualified. I have a degree."
What did you think you were going to do?
Yeah. It is what it is. Here's the thing. As we close, we can close now. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy always goes, "Gotta go home. Let's get going."
Well, no, I'm usually the one hurrying people off the air.
Yeah. Gretchen summed it up. This election's a big deal. Every time, almost every show now, the past couple of weeks, we find some little thing that you pick at the edge, and you find out the election is going to make a difference.
Like a scab.
I don't want to say it's gross, but it's true. This is really for all the marbles. Here's yet another example. You're talking about Second Amendment issues. You're talking about your own children, your own family. Mike Sakoff says this all the time, our count rep. Liberalism is like a disease, you know?
Oh, he calls it a mental illness.
A mental illness, yeah. Literally, we can't let these people stay in office. You just can't. You can't do it. It will be a disaster. And the Supreme Court appointments?
That's huge.
It's one less marble that's involved in this election potentially.
Yeah.
Especially if you look at the ages of some of the justices, you know, there's another one that's 79.
Roberts is the young guy.
80,
Kennedy.
Ginsburg's 82. Kennedy's in his late
79,
70s.
and Ginsburg is 82. Yeah.
Roberts is the young guy.
Well, there's him, but then Alina, what's her face?
Kagan.
She's
Sotomayor.
Kagan. She's
Okay.
55. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
She's young.
if you're not registered, make sure you're registered. And if you are registered, make sure you
You know what?
vote.
Actually, in Illinois, we have same-day registration now, so there is no reason not to vote. We have grace period voting,
And you can do it when you renew your license.
and right there you can register now. There's grace period voting and registration, and there's same-day registration.
This show will never end.
I'm sorry.
Every time I start to wrap it up, somebody,
The
I'm a
country
registrar,
is
I'm
in your hands,
sorry.
voters.
I'm going to say something that
John Jacob.
can't
No, I'm just kidding. I'm not
possibly-
gonna do it.
can't possibly go wrong. Goodbye.